Pwah, ha, 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 ha. My name is Amy too, and welcome back to Text Synth. Today I'll be doing some Text Synth results that came before I made videos of it. So it'll go up until Amy 2 Snakes. So anyway, Amy 2 stepped on a branch while walking. I don't think she was seriously injured. However, her shoe got stuck in the branches. The branch crushed her ankle and ankle bones and dislocated her femur. Yeah, and apparently she wasn't seriously injured. I believe that. She is in the hospital with her ankle in a cast. Her foot is in a cast until she has a cast placed around her ankle. Her heel is not broken. Her foot was dislocated as a result of the branch she stepped on. I will keep her updated about her progress. I do not think... ... Okay, and this one. Moon drove down the dirt road at night, and he saw the light of the moon in the clouds, the stars of the heavens above his head, and 1,000 other things in the clouds. Now there could not be but one moon in the sky, for one had been lost. What does this even mean? There was no need to go to a great distance to seek another. He went up to the moonlight. The moon was in the clouds, but he could see her bright shining, and the moonlight was 1,000 times brighter than any star. Okay. There's another one with moon. Moon drove down the dirt road at night. The wind had come from somewhere to her right. She'd thought the wind would move in her direction, but instead it was moving in the other direction. What does this even mean? The wind comes from any direction. Isn't it like coming towards you? The wind was picking up. The light in her eyes was fading. Her head hurt. She tried to tell herself she could get the car to go faster by pushing. Okay. But that wouldn't do any good. She couldn't think of how to push. So she tried to tell herself she would be able to. If you don't know how to push things, I don't know what to tell you. Sletter was polishing a shotgun in the garage when he heard someone running. When he looked over, he said he saw an older man in his 60s. The man was running toward him at top speed. What does top speed even mean in this instance? Sletter said he wasn't running to get out of the way, he said. He was running straight towards him. He was so close I could smell his breath. I think you're already too close then, because unless he has particularly potent breath. You could see his eyes, and there's a gun in his hand. I could smell it. You could smell the gun in his hand? Sletter said he fired several times. Well, you didn't say that before. You just said that he was walking towards you, and now there's this gun stuff. Big Boy and Buddy were tweaking the nuclear reactor on their spaceship. The reactor was running. They could see it. Their ship was still running. They could see it. The reactor was operating on its own power. They could not be stopped. They could not be stopped. Okay, it just repeats there. They were going to get home. They were going to get home. The ship was going to keep flying through space. They could not be stopped. They could not be stopped. The ship was going to keep... Okay, yeah. I don't remember, like, any of these except for the first one. Okay, just, checking my microphone stuff. Okay, Big Boy and Buddy were tweaking the nuclear reactor on their spaceship. It's the same as any other ship's reactor, just like the one in space, only more powerful. We were going to do something about it when we got back. The same thing. The ship was still moving. The engine power was still growing. The ship was still taking the air it needed to and using it to power itself. And that seemed to amuse the rest of the ... So, I don't know if my microphone level is too high, but the bar like gets maxed out. So, I like tweak something a bit or something. Where am I? See if we can do something. I don't know if it's actually too high, but we'll see if that does anything. Okay. Probably just paranoid. Let's see. Big Boy and Buddy were tweaking the nuclear reactor on their spaceship, and one of them got his head stuck in the reactor. So he's going to explode. But they have to get off. You've got to save this guy. You're going to go back to the planet and have this guy blow up the planet, and all the aliens are coming to kill the whole race. Okay. Giggling. No, they have to be saved. You're going to be the last guy on it. The last guy. Dramatic music. Okay, then. Big Boy and Buddy were tweaking their nuclear reactor on their spaceship in a very quiet atmosphere, while all I was doing was staring out at the horizon, thinking what I would make of the scene in the movie. The only sound was the music playing over the speakers. The lights were turned off. I was trying to figure out what to do with the moment, the feeling, the situation. I think we both had the same realization. What the crap am I doing here? I thought. The scene was a little too intense for that small world to ... Tails gave Sonic a beer for his birthday. Okay, here's a change of atmosphere here. Sonic took him to the park and gave him a cake and invited him to join the team. Sonic was very happy to see him, and the two went out together. It's not weird at all. Okay. Which Sonic thought was a mistake. Sonic decided to take him to the park, but it quickly became obvious he was going to have to leave the next day. Sonic was upset that he had to leave, but he decided that they needed to go anyway and went out as well. They ended up at a park. Tails gave Sonic a beer for... Sonic beer for his birthday, not a beer. However, because they weren't on the same team... Since when? He had a problem with the gift and tried to throw it off to him. This would go on until Sonic came with a beer that the Zones kept from him. The Zones. And the Zones' own beer. Sonic was annoyed with Sonic's behavior, okay, so he's mad at himself, and tried to get him to stop being a jerk. But Sonic refused. Internal conflict. And the Zones decided to have a game of baseball after Sonic showed them a video of the Zone team doing something that Sonic wouldn't. And the Zones team decided Sonic was the reason it couldn't do anything, which Sonic believed. And then proceeded to show them a new team that it was able to play baseball and got the Zones team to believe Sonic was the reason it couldn't, and it ended up winning the game. What is this? Okay. However, this was a game of luck. It sounds like it, actually. The Zone's team was actually better than Sonic's team. But Sonic won anyway in front of the Zone team. And when he did... Some of these I wish were continued a bit, but you know. Tails gave Sonic beer for his birthday. They also threw in a cake and some gifts, as a normal birthday would have. And that's a wrap. Thanks for reading, everyone. Hope you have a lot of fun reading all this, and don't forget to comment if you enjoyed. I love hearing people's stories. And of course, please don't forget to check out my other blog, The Bitch's Guide to Gaming Blog. Advertisements. Okay, that's... Okay. Tails gave Sonic beer for his birthday. But Sonic can't drink beer, Sonic said. I don't drink beer, Shadow said. Okay, Shadow's here now. It's a gift for me, Sonic said. But he can't drink beer, Shadow said. He's just a kid, Sonic said. I don't know what to say, Shadow said. Okay, it's getting very repetitive in the said. Sonic looked at Shadow and nodded. So he can't drink beer? Sonic said. What do you say to that? Well, Sonic, I can't be a doctor, Shadow said. That's not true, Sonic said. No, Shadow said. Well then, Sonic said, I guess I'll be a doctor. That's just it, Sonic said. I can't. No, Shadow said. I'm sure you're a great doctor, Sonic said. Shadow nodded. But you can't be a doctor, Shadow said. What is this? Is this the no, it's not the snakes one. Okay. Amy 2 is sleeping on a hill in the park while her husband was in the office working on their computer. She awoke and saw two men in the park looking through a telescope. One of them had dark hair, so that's why the woman thought he was her husband. What? She tried to talk, but the men took her by the head and what? Forced his way into the tent. She tried to scream, but the man was very strong and she couldn't do it. What was stopping you from screaming? From the sound of it, it looked like the man was grabbing you like this or whatever, not like gagging you or whatever. But I guess you know that can. So she couldn't do it. When the man had her by her head, she could feel her body changing into that of a little girl. Okay, so this guy has like magic time powers, I guess. At first there was no change. Then the little girl started to grow into a little girl. Okay, I guess she... that's technically growing, I guess, but not. And a little girl into a woman. And at around the age of 6, she started to change into a woman. I find that rather hard to believe. He told her to get out or else, but there was no escape for her. So that's how she got in the tent. The next morning, she woke up in a tent next to her husband. She got up and looked out, but there was no one there. She was in a tent in her husband's office. She's camping. She's camping in her husband's office. What? Okay. Moon was driving his big, heavy car through a bumpy mountain road when he heard a sound like a thunderclap. At first he thought it was the sound of a passing cloud, which is not a very logical thing to think. But the noise grew louder and louder, and by the time he reached the hilltop, it was like the sound of a thunderstorm. I thought I was crazy, it said his secretary. I thought I was dreaming. But when his car stopped at the sight of the thunderstorm, he saw the storm raging on. It was the thunderstorm that the Chinese have long been saying is so big there is actually room for it to blow off. As the storm approached the hill where Moon and his secretary stood, he told his secretary, "There's no room. There's no room. There isn't room for him to live." Well then. There isn't room for me. There isn't room for the Chinese to live. What is this? But there is room to live for the thunderstorm. Okay. But the storm came too close to the hilltop, and the thunder was so loud that it was deafening. The storm was not a thunderstorm. Really. But it was too loud for the thunder. Moon was too shocked to be able to think. "You must be mistaken. You must be mistaken," he said, and turned off the car. When he turned off his car, the storm blew away. And he saw it was the thunderstorm that he was thinking of. There is a lot of information here, but it's a pretty interesting read. I've read the book. Okay. Moon was driving his big heavy car through a bumpy road near his home in California. As he approached the mountain, he noticed a large white and light gray ball of gas. Gray ball of gas about one half mile wide in front of him. He was just passing the site when a cloud appeared in the center of the light gray cloud. He had a tail of light gray light. What? The balloon appeared to be glowing from the bottom of the ball when it reached about 100 feet high. But then it vanished. It had taken off just minutes before, but never appeared. The whole experience took less than 10 minutes and the balloon never appeared in the picture, he said. The only thing I can think of to explain is that the picture has been altered by lighting. What does it mean by that? Altered by lighting. So it had this picture in like sitting in the sun for a while. There was a little bit of light shining on it and bleached it there. That's what that cloud is, apparently. I've been searching for the UFO. Okay, now it's straight up a UFO. Okay. I've been searching for the UFO, but cannot find it, he added. The phenomenon, nicknamed UFO glowworms, are seen by some as the next step along the path of the great UFO sighting. Okay, what is the great UFO sighting then? These are sightings of bright dots or orbs in a cloud of gas. They occur when gas clouds are in collision and a light comes out of the bottom of the cloud. This fake science. What is this? There are 3 different forms of this phenomenon. The UFO glowworm or UFO will appear as 2 bright lines and a glowing cloud. The UFO will appear at random intervals and not in a straight line. This sighting occurs on ... I like how I'm progressively developing a thicker or a wet, like a southern drawl. Moon was driving his big heavy car through a bumpy mountain road where the highway was closed. So I guess he's not driving on the highway. Suddenly an arrow crashed into his windshield. And when it came back up, it had sliced through one of his eyes like a hot knife through butter. Well, I guess he's blind in one eye. I'm surprised he's not dead. And he had fallen unconscious. You somehow fell unconscious without, dying from that? He had not known what had happened, or what had happened to him. Those two things imply the same thing. Okay. They did not know until a few minutes later that the arrow was coming down the side of the mountain and had hit him at a high angle. And that it had pierced him right through. I thought, right through? How is he still alive? And that the arrow was lodged in his brain. And that the hole left behind was a hole in his skull. This all implies that, though. It had been raining for more than 2 days. A man named Harry had left a note in the snow on the side of the road. And Moon had followed it to a cabin. Followed the note to a cabin, okay. There he found another note, addressed only to him. That's kind of creepy, though. And it was also addressed only to Henry. And to Henry's girlfriend. The note warned them that they were being watched by a very peculiar man. Oh, you mean the guy that's writing this? Henry, the man who had come up behind Moon. The woman who had found Moon's note had been a member of a very peculiar cult in Montana called the Church of the Children of the Corn. Okay, then. Isn't the Children of the Corn like a horror movie? I don't know that much about that, but Henry had come to the belief that he was a reincarnation of the Corn cult founder. Okay, I remember this now. Not very well, but I remember this. Okay. And Henry had also been a member of the cult for years, since his childhood, and had been the leader of that group for several years. And he had also been a leader of the Children of the Corn. But he had been an adult in that cult for years, and had not been aware of what his fellow cult members were up to. As far as he knew or was aware of his knowledge, yeah, generally you'd be aware of your knowledge, at least to an extent. He had told Moon that he was a reincarnation of him. How do you even come up with this? And that Moon had been an adult in his cult. Not yet a part of that cult for years, and had not known about what his fellow cult members were up to. Well, that's stupid. How does that even happen? As far as he knew, Henry told Moon that he was the reincarnation of him, which is, what even? And that Moon had been an adult in his cult. Yeah, we know that, though. And had been a part of that cult for a few years. When he had found the note directed only to him, Henry had felt very nervous. I mean, if I found this randomly in the woods, I'd feel pretty nervous too. He felt that he could not tell Moon about those things. He did not know what he knew about those things. How do you not know what you know? Nor could he tell Moon that it was actually a reincarnation of a corn cult founder. So there are more than one of these? He had told Moon that a woman had been talking about him, and that woman had told him that he was the reincarnation of the founder of the cult that he'd been living in. Well, I think she's wrong. Okay. I clearly don't have any input here, but I think that she's wrong, and probably a little bit delusional. Okay. And he had felt somewhat nervous, since he did not want to seem to be the reincarnation. Where even am I? So did not want to seem to be the reincarnation of the founder when he was not, and did not want to appear to be the reincarnation of that person when he was not. He was also not sure about where he had picked up the corn cult information about the person who talked about him. That got really complicated at the end there. Okay. Slater was camping on in a mountain cave on the outskirts of the city when he and his two friends came across the monster after hearing noises. When we got into the cave, I could smell something burning, he told the Huffington Post. I could see it through the crack in the door that looked like something was crawling over the top of it. It was a really big thing. I thought it measured 5 feet across and about 8 feet tall. Yeah, that's pretty big. Let me guess, it's a Sasquatch or something. We saw the flames. I guess not. Okay. And when I looked down, it was really big. As he watched, the creature began to move, and then crawled over the side of the door as they stood there transfixed. By the time we got out of the cave, we had already been scared stiff, he said. I was still shaking from it. They had no idea what the big creature was, but one of Bledder's pals, it changed Sledder's name, had seen something similar at the entrance to the mountains on their way to a camping trip earlier in the year. As they watched the creature, they thought it was just a big rock. Just a big rock. At first, then it started walking towards them. And as the group fled the cave, it turned back and looked down, they said. I remember this one. Okay. That's when it moved off into the distance. They were too scared to report the encounter to the police, but they said they told everyone about it and were encouraged to file a report with the local police. And said the police told them they had to file a report with the police in a different town because that's where the creature was. And they didn't want to do that because the people who worked at that department were very scared. What? The police told them the creature was considered a possible or probable hoax by a school teacher. But they didn't know if that person had left their place of employment or not. They said the creature was too big to be a hoaxer, but they couldn't be sure. ... If it's a Bigfoot sighting, it's probably a hoax. Slater was camping in a mountain cave near the town of near the border with Germany, when he discovered some 20 stone statues. Some of which were made for the festival that was to follow later that year. They were discovered after a couple of days of digging. Okay, so they weren't all made then, like, for the festival. They were digging and were taken by local hunters. What is this? And after several days, they were found at the end of the cave. Some of them have been dated to around the 8th century, while others are from around the 1st to the 3rd century AD. The discovery was reported to the local authorities in Hal, and it was decided to make this one the main event that would be held during Easter week in Hal. Why? But the local hunters didn't want to take them, and they were taken to the local museum. Then the Hall Antiquarianum, is that a real word? Where they were studied. I'm gonna search this up, actually. It is misspelled. But whatever. At that time, it didn't appear that the people of Hal had much knowledge about archaeology. Really now, because they excavated like statues that are over 1,000 years old. In the years which had gone by, and many discoveries had happened in the ... Okay. Amy, too, was watching TV with Mooney, and they both laughed. When they saw her, they said, "Why are you still watching the news? You're not that interested in our lives, are you? It's time to go back to the toilet." She said, "Yeah, I think so." They said, "We'll take you in the bathroom and give you a shower." That's not weird. "We'll have a big breakfast. We'll give you a bath. We'll make you a hot meal with rice, pork, vegetables, and lots of fish. You'll love it all." "No, I don't want that. I want my mother. I want my father." Whatever. Amy, too, was watching TV with Moon and Jack in the house when Moon suddenly woke up. He was sleeping, I guess. Moon's eyes turned red and okay? And she ran off the bed to check on Jack. Moon then sat next to Jack, with her back to him, and said to him, "Jack, I hope you're not mad at me." What was there to make him mad? Jack didn't respond. Jack turned his head and looked over the bed to where Moon sat. The only sign of Moon was the bed. What? Which had changed from the normal black to the pink and white. What is this? Moon's hair was now white and her eyes were pink. So there's some weird magic here. Jack turned back to watch Jack. So he's got a mirror there, I guess. Moon looked at Jack, and as she started to walk to the bathroom, Moon had a big smile on her face. That's weird. Jack looked over the edge of the bed. His eyes suddenly went wide, and he stood up and ran into the bathroom, locking the door behind him. "Moon! What are you doing in the bathroom?" Wait, how did it bring me all the way back here? Okay. Whatever. "What are you doing in the bathroom?" Moon stood in the doorway, looking down and staring straight ahead, as she was still smiling. "What?" "Oh, nothing. Just watching something." "Moon, I saw something. You gotta help. We're in danger." Moon looked up and said softly, "Jack, it is nothing. I'm just watching TV." "No, you're not. I saw it. I saw what you were doing. You were looking at porn." Moon stood in the doorway as she stared at him. She then looked over the edge again. Her eyes suddenly went red and she stared at him. "I'm sorry, I didn't even realize it was you watching TV." How? Whatever. Jack walked out of the bathroom, locking the door behind him. "You locked the door behind..." So now... What, the bathroom has a key? Or did you lock it from the inside before closing it? So I guess, whatever.
I'm going over to bed now,
he said to Moon. I don't know what's going on. It looks like you're not feeling well. Jack, I'm fine. Don't say that, Jack said. I need to talk to you right now. Sure, if you want to. Jack walked into his room and closed his eyes as he walked to his bed again. He closed his eyes and fell asleep as he heard Moon talking to him. He was dreaming as he woke up. Dreaming of a large brown furry beast, which was chasing a yellow bird-like creature. When the large furry beast ran toward him, he turned and ran back toward the bedroom, opening his eyes as he saw his mother sitting at his feet. Hey, Jack, she said. What is it, Moon? Wait, what? Moon's his mother? Nothing! He turned to go down the stairs, and she held on to each of his arms tightly. Moon, it's been a while, she said. Where have I been? You were sleeping, and I thought you were gone. She turned him around and pointed at her feet. Where was I? What happened last night? She sighed. I was so sad I couldn't sleep. You weren't sad, you just felt bad. What do you know? What happened last night? He asked.
You ran off into the woods again. It looked like you were trying to find another friend.
Jack shook his head. How do you know?
Oh, I saw it.
I was looking for you and you were running through the woods, just like the dream you were having last night. No, that wasn't me. I was dreaming. Well, you can't run off. That's a sign of being scared. You have to stay put and be careful, like always. Don't tell me that was the dream last night. I was going on a date with a beautiful girl, and she wanted to play outside. What is this? I didn't say any of that. What was the last thing I saw you do before you went into the woods?
I went for a walk around the house.
No way! You ran away and hid in the woods, and I was watching you. No, I'm not hiding in the woods. Well, if you have to run from the woods, then the dream must be real. She turned him around. Where were you running from last night? What? I went back to my house. I'm in the kitchen. But I can't get back here because the door had been locked. I can't remember where you went. I was looking for you. That's all right. There are more things that you can do now to try and find your friend. I didn't know you were looking for me. You'll see when I let you in, and see where we're going to get into the woods. She took him by the hand. He had never seen her so happy. This was more proof than the dream that she really existed. What? He was going into the woods in a dream, and he was going to see her. He knew the answer.
I'm going to the woods too, and I'm going to see you. Don't worry, I'm going to meet you in the woods, and I'm going to bring you back to your house. Not sure if he wants that, though. That's good. You don't have to run away. What are you going in the woods for? You don't have to worry. I'll get you back home. She looked at him. Are you sure you don't have anything to do? No. But that didn't stop her. I didn't know what you were planning. But you need to be sure I can't get back to your house. I'll be ready in half an hour. You can call me if you want. She had been standing there with him, so close, so confident, that she had no doubt that he would follow her. He knew it. She knew it. She was going through the woods so she could catch up to him. So she could be the one who told him the story the right way. So he would be the one who said yes before the day was over. It was almost like a dream. You can call me. I'll talk to you in half an hour, okay? I'll be waiting. She walked into the darkness,
and he watched her go. For just a moment, she said to the other one, "You are going to get the wrong idea." Yeah, I'm sure that's accurate. The other one shook his head quickly. He was going to have to call her before his boss said anything. Al ... Weird. Moon was driving on a strange road at night when suddenly it was surrounded by a bright light. When he realized that it was not a car but a spaceship, the moonlight reflected the light into his eyes. It felt like he was a child looking at the stars.
The sky is so beautiful. It was really nice. Isn't it? The stars seem so big too.
Sun Moon smiled and waved around his hands. Then he started laughing as he said with excitement, "The light is really like the light and the moon. I thought the sky was pretty, but it's nothing compared to this." When he turned around, the sky was now much bigger. It was like an enormous tree. What? How do you come up with that? The moon was in a high place, so far away. The light was brighter, the shining like a bright star. The moon was so close it seemed as though it was touching the spaceship.
Wow, this is the spaceship of the moon? I was so worried, but it's okay.
Sun ... Moon was driving on a dirt road at night when suddenly a loud roar woke him. So he was sleeping while driving. The noise, which is said to be heard by those who are awake, has been heard since the time of Buddha. He went into the forest to investigate. He found that there was nothing to be seen but a huge dark hole, and was able to observe and report what he saw. As he was leaving the forest, he heard something from the hole. The sounds were like what a frog might make when it is trying to get out of a deep hole. As he continued traveling, the sound grew more and more louder. More and more louder. As it traveled farther and farther. Eventually, when his horse was exhausted and needed a rest, he went into the hole to rest. What?
As he was about to leave, he heard a loud sound that was unlike anything he had ever heard. When he returned to the hole, he found that there was nothing there but nothing. He could hear his horse breathing in the hole. So his horse went... Or is he hearing his horse from the hole, or is his horse in the hole? It is said that when a frog goes into a deep hole, it goes to rest.
What? I've never heard that being said before, though.
In the same way, those who are driving can hear the sound of the wind and hear the sound that is like what frogs might make when trying to get out of a deep hole. What is this? This sounds like a frog trying to get out of a huge hole. The sound is said to be heard by those who are awake. This is the sound of the Buddha in the what? in the Dharma ending age. I don't know if I said that right. Doesn't matter. It is said that the Dharma ending age, when the wind of Dharma arise, those who are awake will be awakened. I don't know if you need to awaken them because they're already awake. This is the sound of Buddha in the Dharma ending age. Okay, yeah. It is said to be heard by those who are awake. Okay. A bodhisattva should not make a sound when they hear the sound of the Buddha, because they should know this. Those who know this should not make a sound when they hear the sound of the Buddha.
Okay, it just reversed the order of that thing and repeated it.
Slater decided to live in a mountain cave so as not to be a distraction for the other dwarves.
Okay, there are dwarves in this one now, I guess. Though he was allowed inside the caverns to sleep if he had a bed.
The dwarves were very proud of their mountain caves. However, when the cave was found to be a dangerous environment, they abandoned it and decided to relocate to the surface. Really now. Livid that the cave was abandoned, Sigmund became obsessed with destroying the mountain caves and killed all the dwarves inside. So he's genocidal. Okay. Edit. Reanimated. In the year 975 of the First Age, Livid was awoken by the ghost of a dwarf named Sigmund. Yeah, we just heard about that guy. He was the one that blew up the caves. Who had been trapped in the mountain cave by the other dwarves. Yeah, because he's like a killer. Like, he blew things up. He killed a whole village, I would assume. Sigmund used his sword to kill all of the other dwarves and freed Livid. Okay, so he's doing more genocidal stuff. Okay. Who in turn proceeded to slaughter the dwarves. I thought they were already slaughtered by the other guy. She then went to the surface for revenge. What do you get revenge for? I thought you already, if you needed revenge, you already got the revenge. Okay then. And was eventually stopped by a group of dwarves led by Tovius. She was imprisoned by the king under his tower in a pit and was eventually freed by the dwarven king, which was not a very good idea, because this person is not safe. During his imprisonment, he discovered that he could use his sword to kill the other dwarves. Why does he even have a sword in prison? What is that? But the dwarves of the underground had discovered a secret in his sword. Livid's sword could be used to revive dead dwarves. Oh, necromancy, okay. Necromancy with a sword. But only if they were killed first.
However, she was killed by what? The sword itself, so it can only revive dwarves that were killed by the sword? Or is it just dwarves that didn't die of old age or disease? What? Anyway. However, she was forced to leave the mountain cave after she was defeated by Tovius. Edit. Return to the surface. In the year 985 of the First Age, okay, 10 years later, the Dwarven King ordered the king to construct... The Dwarven King ordered the king to construct a bridge over the mountain cave. Unfortunately, the Dwarven army was trapped by the ghost of Sigmund. This guy is still active! Livid used her knife to kill all the dwarves trapped in the mountain cave and destroy the bridge. How many people has this person killed so far? I remember this one, but I didn't remember it until I started reading it again. Okay. After destroying the bridge, she returned to the underground for retribution. Okay then. But when she reached the surface, she was confronted by a group of dwarves led by the dwarf Tovius. She fought back and used her knife to kill the two of them. She actually killed Tovius this time? Livid went to the surface for revenge. She eventually encountered the king in person, and he offered her peace by giving it to her. So you didn't offer her it. You just gave it to her. After Livid and Tovius made friends. Okay, he wasn't killed.
She began helping Livid defeat the dwarves. Eventually, she managed to defeat all of the dwarves. Okay, why are you killing them together now? She managed to defeat all of the dwarves. She later found the sword of Sigmund left behind and used it to kill all the dwarves. Okay, how many times are you going to kill all of the dwarves? Clearly you haven't clearly it's inaccurate because you never actually killed all of them. Including the king. Okay. But he offered you peace. Why are you killing him? She returned to the surface with Tovius. During her time away, she met a dwarf named Tormod, who told her of a secret in Livid's sword. Livid's sword could be used to revive dead dwarves. Okay, we learned that before. But only if they were killed first. However, she was forced to leave the mountain cave after she was defeated by Tovius in the year 9,857. Okay, so this is like 1,000 years later. No, 9,000 years later almost. Of the First Age. The Dwarven King ordered the king to connect the mountain cave to another cave. As the mountain was becoming more dangerous for the dwarves, in order to make a bridge for the dwarves, the king ordered Livid and Tovius to destroy the bridges. What is this? After destroying the bridge, she returned to the underground for retribution, but when she reached the surface, she was confronted by a group of dwarves led by the dwarf Tovius. Okay. Yeah. Moon was changing the tire on his car when he was pulled over by California police. He explained that because the moon is on the opposite side of the sun, it has an angle of about 23 degrees. What the hell is this? Police found a pair of moon-dipped tires at the scene, indicating the driver was driving at an angle of between 15 and 17 degrees. They found this moon-dipped tire that was in the car. That was the tire, said Officer Joe Sanchez. Sanchez said he was unsure who else was involved in the incident. He said the man's friends also claimed the moon was on the same side of the sun. It's not like it was a perfect thing that was put there, Sanchez explained. Moon was repainting his car, but he didn't know if he wanted to do that because he didn't know how to. And the problem with this is that because I've had it in my head for the last 6 years, I am a very good car painter. It's just that I've never had a project that was really my idea. I was painting something and it just seemed like a really good idea, so I asked if anyone in particular wanted to see it, and I thought it might be cool to take it up to them and have them take their car to a new paint job. What? So we took mine up to the garage, and I asked a guy named Kevin, "Would you be willing to do the paint job?" And he said sure. And after we hung it up, and it looked amazing to me, then I realized I could probably afford to take it home. And after that, I was just going to do it. I knew that it would work out well, because I have all these different cars and I know what it would look like. And the paint will look good, and I'd do another one for myself. After that, I had 2 things I wanted to fix. So I started trying to fix one and I didn't know how. I just figured that if I knew how to do it, then I could fix both. So I had an idea for one, and I was like, you know what? The way I thought I could fix it... How many more are there? I'm going to do this one and end it, because I don't know how many more there are till Amy 2 Snakes. Moon sleeping in his car. Okay, this was a typo.
sleeping in his car when suddenly there is a crash in the parking lot and his son has vanished. The next thing he knows, his son is on his knees. Okay, so he didn't just vanish, or he vanished very briefly, asking for his dad's help, and then he's awake with the kids in the car, and he's got a gun. What? What? And the scene is like, oh my god, this is it. This is like a really interesting story. What? I was thinking to myself, I'm going to get the kids in the car and just go in and try to get it on tape. What? I was just thinking how hard it is to get this stuff on tape. So I was trying to get them in the car, but then I was thinking, what if I don't know what what I was going to do? I was thinking, what do the cops do when they come? Do they just wait for someone else to call the cops? Because what? Because the cops don't have enough cops? But I was thinking that if I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm like going in and saying, okay, I'm not going to do anything. But if someone shows up and says, hey, here's what I have done, and you have to call the cops. But I don't know what I might do. I just want you to call the cops, and they'll get it on tape. And if you don't call the cops, I'm going to take my kids and run away. And I have a gun, and if this guy shows up and says that, I'm going to go in, and I'm going to make a scene. And then this happened. It was like I just got to start thinking about the things I can do and what I can do. And I just started thinking, and I'm like, okay, let's just keep going. And we can get the gun on tape. What is this? And so I'm just thinking about everything, and then I'm like, oh man, he's just walking across the street. And I'm like, let's just keep going. And he says, I'm not doing anything. And that's when I started thinking about what would happen if I did this or that. And he said, okay. So then I was thinking about how to do this, how to do it. I was like, okay, that's going to be the easiest thing. And I'm just going to walk across the street to the other store. And I'm going to walk across the street to his house. And he was like, I'm not doing anything. So there was nothing to worry about. It was just going to be like that. Just two people walking down the street, nothing. So I walk across the street to his house, and his dad is there. And that was just a really good experience. Just being able to walk up to the house and just be like, hi, we went to the same school, but I went to your school. What's going on? And then you're thinking, how does he even know my name? How does he know my name even? And you're thinking, like, what is he expecting to get? Something like this? I'm thinking, like, I'm just going to walk across the street to his house, do nothing, come over here, and then he'll be like, okay, we're going to buy it. All right. Then that ... Okay, what's the other one? Okay. Anyway, I think I'm going to end this video here. Is a lot to read. I didn't expect there to be this much before the first video I did. But I just needed to make a video of Text Synth because I haven't done it in a while. I haven't made any video in a while. And that RimWorld video I did the last time, there's a second episode to that I made like the next day from that video. I just never edited it. And I really should eventually get around to that. But anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.